Good evening, everyone. Welcome to your National Startup Bootcamp 1.0. This is your fifth session. So, without wasting much more time, I would like to invite Professor Banerjee to start the session. Sir, please.
Hi, friends. Welcome to this transformational venture. Today's topic is key elements of success, setting entrepreneurial mind, and developing skills for the growth. The learning objectives are fourfolded to understand the different elements of success, to understand the ways to succeed by eliminating the elements of failure, to understand how to build a strong entrepreneurial mind, and to understand the key skills required for entrepreneurship to succeed in different growth plan. The expected outcome are, after attending this session, you shall be able to overcome the entrepreneurial crisis and acquire the key entrepreneurial skill in accordance with the growth plan. Next. Next, please. I would like to start this session with a story which you may have heard from your parents or grandparents. A man who became jobless tried a lot to get a good job, but every time he failed. He had a family. They were dependent on him. He gave many interviews, but could not crack. So he got totally frustrated. Then he started thinking what to do next. One day, he was sitting in front of window and saw that a sadhu walking on the street. Suddenly an idea came in his mind. If I become a sadhu, that can at least save my life from starvation. So when it came to his mind, he bought a piece of saffron cloth, collected a stick, and went to a mart nearby. After a few months, he came to know from his friend that his family had received a job offer letter in his name. He could not control his pleasure after listening this and immediately returned home. Moral of the story is he was not fit to be a sadhu. He turned to a sadhu as a temporary measure to survive, but not by his choice. The same principle is applicable to entrepreneurship. If you are not fit enough, you don't have the essential traits to become a good entrepreneur, then it's better not to try for this very hard game. The participants who have already into a startup or running a business easily can understand this, how difficult it was in your past journey and how difficult it is becoming today and for tomorrow. I'd like to mention a few features of entrepreneurship, which is nothing but the ability to create and build something from scratch, from zero. It's not something that it's already ready and you are taking it up. It's not like a family business. My suggestion is collect the basic minimum resources for your business. Whatsoever difficult for you, explore the whole world, especially which is new to you. Use the failure as a tool for your learning. Respond to the setbacks and defeats as if they were temporary interruptions. Rely on the resiliency to rebound and succeed. Address how to get the odds of success in your favor. Try to be effective rather than perfect. So these are the few tips I'd like to share at the very beginning of my presentation. Next, please. Now I would discuss the different characteristics of growth-minded entrepreneurship. You all have a dream to grow, and that dream has compelled you to become an entrepreneur and to give your full effort into this. Now, what is the basic difference of an entrepreneur from an inventor or a manager? The difference is like that if you have a good innovation and creativity skill, you can become an inventor. If you are good in management skill and business know-how, you can be a good manager. But unless and until you acquire all these qualities into you, these three parameters, innovation, managerial skill and business know-how, it is difficult for you to become a good entrepreneur. All these three elements should be at a very high level, which will boost you to become a good entrepreneur, which will fetch the success in your future business. Next, please. Now, I would like to discuss 5 stages of growth and development, because all the entrepreneurs, when you have started from scratch, from zero level, you always have a dream to grow. You always have a dream to develop. You always have a dream to conquer the world. Each of these 5 stages of growth and development is characterized by an index of size, diversity, and complexity, and maybe described by 5 management factors: the management style, organizational structure, extent of formal systems, major strategic goals, and the owner's involvement in the business. Based on these, we can divide the stages into these 5 levels. The initial stage is existence. Second comes survival. Next is success. This success stage has 2 substages: 3D, success disengagement, and 3G, success growth. Number 4 is trade-off, and the last stage is resource maturity. Next, please. I will explain all the stages in details so that you understand the stages and what to do, what is your role, and how to proceed. The first stage is existence. In this stage, the main problems of the business are obtaining customers and delivering the product or service contracted for. Among the key questions, the following 3 questions are very important. Number 1, can we get enough customers, deliver our products, and provide services well enough to become a viable business? Second question is, can we expand from that one key customer or a pilot production process to a much broader sales space? Third question is, do we have enough money to cover the considerable cash demands of the startup phase? The organization is a simple one. The owner does everything and directly supervises the subordinates. We should be of at least average competence. Systems and formal planning are very minimal to non-existent. The company's strategy is simply to remain alive. The owner is the business itself, performs all the important tasks, and is the major supplier of energy, direction, and with relatives and friends, and also the capital. Companies in the existence stage range from newly started, say, restaurants or a retail store to high technology manufacturers that have yet to stabilize either production or product quality. Many of such companies never gain sufficient customer acceptance or product capability to become viable. In these cases, the owners close the business when the startup capital runs out, and if they're lucky enough, sell the business for its asset value. In some cases, the owners cannot accept the demands the business places on their time, finances, energy, and they prefer to quit. Those companies that remain in business become the stage 2 enterprises. Next, please. This stage 2 with its product or services to keep them. The key problems thus shifts from mere existence to relationship between revenue and expenses. The main issues become number one, I'm in stage 2. Yeah. The main issues become number one, in the short run, can we generate enough cash to break even and to cover the repair or replacement of our any capital asset as they wear out? Can we at a minimum generate enough cash flows to stay in business or to finance the growth to a size which is sufficiently large given our industry and market niche, or to earn an economic return on our assets and also the labor? The organization is still very simple. The company may have a limited number of employees supervised by a sales manager or a general foreman. Neither of them makes major decisions independently, but instead carries out the rather well-defined orders of the owners. Systems development is minimum. Formal planning is at best cash forecasting. The major goal is still survival, and the owner is still synonymous with the business. In the survival stage, the enterprise must grow in size and the profitability and move to the next stage. Or it may, as many companies do, remain at the survival stage for some time, earn marginal return on investment, and eventually go out of business when the owner gives up or retires. All the mom and pop stores are in this category. As are manufacturing businesses that cannot get the product or process sold as planned. Some of these marginal businesses have developed enough economic viability to ultimately be sold, usually at a slight loss, or they may fail completely and drop from the sight in the market. Next, please. Now I will discuss stage 3. Stage 3 is success stage. The decision facing owners at this stage is whether to exploit the company's accomplishments and expand or keep the company stable and profitable, providing a base for alternative owner activities. Thus, the key issue is whether to use the company as a platform for growth, a substage 3G company, or as a means of support for the owners as they completely or partially disengage from the company, making it a substage 3D company. Behind the disengagement might be a wish to start up new enterprise, run for any uh, political office, or simply to pursue hobbies and other outside interests while maintaining the business more or less in the status quo. The substage 3D, as I told you, in this success disengagement substage, the company has attained true economic health that has sufficient size and product market penetration to ensure economic success and earns average or above average profits. The company can stay at this stage for an indefinite period, providing the environmental changes does not destroy its market niche or ineffective management reduces competitive abilities. Organizationally, the company has growth large enough to, in many cases, it requires functional managers to take over certain duties performed by the owners. The managers should be competent but need not be of the highest caliber. Since their upward potential is limited by the corporate goals, cash is plentiful and the main concern is to avoid a cash drain in prosperous periods to the detriment of the company's ability to withstand the inevitable rough times as we are experiencing today after COVID-19. In addition, the first professional staff members come on the board, usually a controller in the office and perhaps a production scheduler in the plant. Basic financial, marketing and production systems are in the place. Planning in the form of operational budgets supports the functional delegation. Owner and to a lesser extent the company's managers should be monitoring and making the strategy and maintaining a status quo. As the business matures, the owner increasingly move apart to some extent because of the owner's activities elsewhere and to some extent because of the presence of other managers in the business. Many companies continue for long period in the success disengagement substage. The product market niche of some does not permit growth. This is the case of many service businesses in small and medium size, slowly growing communities and for franchise holders with limited territories. Other owners actually choose this route. If the company can contribute to adapt to environmental changes, it can continue as is, or be sold or merged at a profit, or subsequently be stimulated into a growth. For franchise holders, the last option would necessitate the purchase of other franchises. If the company cannot adapt to change the circumstances, as was the case with many automobile dealers, it will either fold or drop back to a marginally surviving company. Substage 3G, in this success growth substage, the owner consolidates the company and marshals resources for the growth. Owner takes the cash and established borrowing power of the company and risk it all in financing the growth. It's time to look on business development models. Among the important tasks are to make sure the basic business stays profitable so that it will not outrun its source of cash, and obviously to develop managers to meet the needs of the growing business. The second task requires hiring managers with an eye to the company's future rather than its current condition. Systems should be installed with attention to the forthcoming needs. Operational planning is, as in substage 3D, in the form of budget, but strategic planning is extensively and deeply involves the owner. The owner is thus far more active in all phases of the company's affairs than in the disengagement aspect of this phase. If it is successful, then the substage 3G company proceeds to stage 4. Indeed, this 3G company is often a first attempt at growing before commitment to a growth strategy. If the 3G company is unsuccessful, the causes may be detected in time for the company to shift to a 3D company, and if not, retrenchment to the survival stage may also be possible prior to bankruptcy or any distressed sale. Next, please. Now coming to stage 4, this is a takeoff stage. If you have growth strategy, if you are successful in 3G, then this stage will come. In this stage, the key problems are how to grow rapidly and know to finance that growth. The most important question then comes, number 1, delegation, and number 2, cash management. In delegation, you may have to confront some questions like, can the owner delegate responsibility to others to improve the managerial effectiveness of a fast growing and increasingly complex enterprise? Further, will the action be true delegation with controls on performance and a willingness to see mistakes made? or will it be abdication, as is so often in different cases? And the second aspect is cash management. The questions you may confront are, will there be enough to satisfy the great demands growth brings, often requiring a willingness on the owner's part to tolerate a high debt equity ratio and a cash flow that is not eroded by inadequate expense controls or ill-advised investments brought about by the owner's own impatience. The organization is decentralized at this stage and, at least in part, divisionalized, usually in either sale or production. The key managers must be very competent to handle a growing and complex business environment. Systems strained by the growth are becoming more refined and extensive. Both the operational and strategic planning are being done and involves some specific managers. The owner and the business have become reasonably separate. Yet the company is still dominated by both the owner's presence and stock control. This is a pivotal period in any company's life cycle. If the owner rises to the challenge of a growing company, both financially and managerially, it can become a big business. If not, it can usually be sold, but at a profit, provided the owner recognizes his or her limitations soon enough. Too often, those who bring the business to the success stage are unsuccessful in stage 4. Reasons are either because they try to grow too fast or run out of cash. The owner falls victim to the omnipotence syndrome, or they're unable to delegate effectively enough to make the companies work. This is the omniscience syndrome. It is, of course, possible for any company to traverse this high growth stage without the original management who formed the company. Often the entrepreneur who founded the company and brought it to the success stage is replaced either voluntarily or involuntarily by the company's investors or creditors or by the successors. If the company fails to make the big time, it may be able to retrench and continue as a successful and substantial company at a state of equilibrium. It may also drop back to stage 3 if the problems are too extensive. It may drop all the way back to the survival stage or even fail. So this stage is also very critical, and when you will reach at that stage, you should have a vigilance in all the matters and the risk factors, and you should be able to overcome the crisis time. Next, please. Next stage is resource maturity. If you are successful in stage 4, then you will enter this stage 5. The greatest concern of a company entering this stage are, first, to consolidate and control the financial gains brought on by rapid growth, and second, to retain the advantage of small size, including flexibility of resources and the entrepreneurial spirit. The corporations must expand the management force first. It is important to eliminate the inefficiencies in management, where the growth where these inefficiencies can become an obstacle to the growth and can produce an professionalism in the company. At this stage, higher management tools like budget, strategic planning, management by objectives, standard cost systems, everything will be in place. And without diluting the qualities of an entrepreneur. Any company in this stage 5 has the staff and financial resources to engage in detailed operational and strategic planning. The management is decentralized, adequately staffed and experienced, and systems are extensive and well developed. The owner and the business are quite separate, both financially and operationally. The company has now arrived to a very stable condition. It has the advantage of size, financial resources, and managerial talents. If it can preserve its entrepreneurial spirit, it will be a formidable force in the market. If not, it may enter a 6th stage of sorts, ossification. This ossification is characterized by a lack of innovative decision making and avoidance of risk. It seems most common in large organizations whose sizable market share, buying power, and financial resources keep them viable until there is a major change in the environment. Unfortunately for these big businesses, it is usually their rapidly growing competitors that notice the environmental changes first, and they take actions very fast. Next, please. Based on this discussion, we need to understand the key management factors. There are several factors which change in importance as the business grows and develops, are predominant in determining ultimate success or failure. There are 8 such factors, of which 4 related to enterprise itself, and fourth related to the owner. The four that relates to the company are: number one, financial resources including cash and borrowing power; number two, personnel resources or human resource relating to numbers, depth and quality of people, particularly in the management and staff levels; number three, systems resource in the terms of the degree of sophistication of both information and planning and control mechanism; number four, business resources including the customer relation, market share, supplier relation, manufacturing and distribution process, high-end technology usage, and obviously the reputation, market reputation, the brands, all of which give the company a position in its industry and market. Next, please. The other four factors that relate to the owners are: number one, owner's goal for himself or herself and also for the business; number two, owner's operational abilities in doing important jobs as marketing, inventing, production, and managing distribution; number three, owner's managerial ability and willingness to delegate responsibility and to manage the activities of others; number four, owner's strategic abilities or strategy making skill for looking beyond the present and matching the strengths and weaknesses of the company with his or her goals. As a business moves from one stage to another, the importance of the factors changes. We might view the factors as alternating among three levels of importance. The first level is the key variables which are absolutely essential for success and must receive high priority. The second level is the factors that are clearly necessary for the enterprise's success and must receive some attention. And the third level is the factors of little immediate concern to the top management. If we categorize each of the 8 factors discussed here based on its importance at each stage of company's development, we get a clear picture of changing management demands. Next, please. This changing nature of managerial challenges is a phenomenon in business. In the early stage, the owner's ability to do the job gives life to a new business. The small businesses are built on owner's talent, his ability to sell, produce, invent, or whatever. This factor is thus of the highest importance. The owner's ability to delegate, however, is on the bottom of the scale, since there are few, if any, employees to delegate to, which any small business will face at the initial stage. As the company grows, other people enter sales, production, or engineering, and they first support and then even supplant the owner's skills, thus reducing the importance of this factor. At the same time, the owner must spend less time doing and more time managing. He or she must increase the amount of work done through other people, which means delegation. The inability of many founders to let go of doing and to begin managing and delegating explains the demise of many businesses in the substage 3G and the stage 4. The owner contemplating a growth strategy must understand the change in personal activities. For example, a decision entails and examine the managerial needs. Similarly, an entrepreneur contemplating starting a business should recognize the need to do all the selling, manufacturing, engineering from the beginning, along with managing cash and planning of the business's course. Requirements that take much energy and commitment. The importance of cash changes as the business changes. It is an extremely important resource at the start. It becomes easily manageable at the success stage and is a main concern again if the organization begins to grow. As growth slows at the end of stage 4 and stage 5, cash becomes a manageable factor again. The companies in stage 3 need to recognize the financial needs and risk entailed in a move to the next stage, stage 4. The issues of people, planning, and systems gradually increase in importance as the company progresses from slow initial growth to a rapid growth. These resources must be acquired somewhat in advance of the growth stage so that they are in place when needed. Matching business and personal growth is crucial in the existence stage because the owner must recognize and be reconciled to the heavy financial and time energy demands of the new business. Some find these demands more than they can handle. In the survival stage, the owner has achieved the necessary reconciliation and survival is paramount. Matching of goals is thus irrelevant in this stage 2. A second serious period for growth and goal matching occurs in the success stage. Does the owner wish to commit his or her time and risk the accumulated equity of the business in order to grow? or instead prefer to save time and some of the benefits of success, all too often the owner wants both. But to expand the business rapidly, when planning a new house or for long vacation involves a considerable risk. To make a realistic decision on which direction to take, the owner needs to consider the potential, the personal and business demands of different strategies, and to evaluate his or her managerial ability to meet these challenges. Finally, business resources are the stuff of which success is made. They involve building market share, customer relations, solid vendor sources, and a technological base, and are very important in the early stages. In the latter stages, the loss of a major customer, supplier, or technical source is more easily compensated for. Thus, the relative importance of this factor is shown to be declining. This changing role of factors clearly illustrates the need for owners' flexibility. An overwhelming preoccupation with cash is quite important at some stage and less important at others. Delaying tax payment at almost all cost is paramount in stage 1 and also in stage 2, but may seriously distort the accounting data and use of management time during the periods of success and growth. Doing versus delegating also requires a flexible management. Holding on to old strategies and ways, it serves a company that is entering the growth stage, and it can even be fatal at this stage. Next, please. Yes. So this takeoff stage makes the demands on the enterprise. Nearly every factor except the owner's ability to do is very crucial. This is the stage of action, taking action, and potentially large rewards. Small business owners who want such growth must ask themselves 4 questions. Number 1, do I have the quality and diversity of people needed to manage a growing company? Number 2, do I have now or will I have shortly the system in place to handle the needs of a larger, more diversified organization? Number 3, do I have the inclination and ability to delegate decision making to my managers? And number 4, do I have enough cash and borrowing power along with the inclination to risk everything to pursue for the rapid growth? Similarly, the potential entrepreneur can see that starting a business requires an ability to do something very well, or a good marketable idea, a high level of energy, and a favorable cash flow forecast, or a large sum of cash on hand. These are less important in stage 5, when well-developed people management skill, good information system, and budget controls take the priority. Perhaps this is why some experienced people from the large companies fail to make good as entrepreneur or managers in small companies, because they are used to delegating their power and not good enough at doing things of their own. That's the problem they often face and fail in due course. Next, please. We need to evaluate all sorts of small business situations, even those that at first glance appear to be expectations. Take the case of franchises. These enterprises begin the existence stage with a number of differences from most startup situations. They often have the following advantages: a market plan developed from the extensive research which is available to them, a sophisticated information system and control mechanism is in place, the operating procedures are standard, well defined and well developed, promotion and other support system as brand equity, etc., are well identified and in place, and also that requires relatively high startup capital. If the franchisor has done sound market analysis and has a solid differentiated product, the new venture can move rapidly through the existence and survival stage, where many new ventures founder, and into the early stage of success. The cost to the franchises for this beginning advantages are usually comprised of some factors like limited growth due to territory restrictions, heavy dependence on the franchisor for continued economic health, potential for lateral failure as the entity enters the stage 3 without the matured experience of stage 1 and 2, because everything was done by the franchisor. One way to grow with franchising is to acquire multiple units or territories. Managing several of these, of course, takes a different set of skills than managing one unit. And it is here that the lack of survival experience can become damaging and detrimental to the organization. Another seeming exception is high technology startups. These are highly visible companies such as computer software business or genetic engineering enterprises, or say laser development companies or robot manufacturing companies, which attract much interest from the investment community. Entrepreneurs and investors who start from often intent that they grow quite rapidly and then go public or to be sold to another corporations. This strategy requires them to acquire a permanent source of outside capital almost from the beginning. The providers of this cash usually venture capitalists may bring planning and operating systems of a stage 3 or a stage 4 company to the organization, along with an outside board of directors to monitor and oversee the investment. The resources provided enable this entity to jump through stage 1, last out stage 2, until the product comes to market and attain stage 3. At this point, the planned strategy for growth is often beyond the managerial capabilities of the founding owner, and the outside capital interest may dictate a management change. In such cases, the company moves very rapidly into stage 4, and depending on the competence of the development, marketing, and production people, the company becomes a big success or an expensive failure, either of these two. The problems that beset both franchises and high-tech companies stem from a mismatch of the founder's problem-solving skill and the demands that forced evolution bring to the company. Besides these extreme two examples, that of franchise business and high technology companies, it is found that while a number of other companies appear to be at a given stage of development, they were on closer examination actually at one stage with regard to a particular factor and at another stage with regard to the others. For example, I can give you a small example of it. One company had the abundance of cash from a period of controlled growth, which we have learned in substage 3G, growth stage, and was ready to accelerate its expansion. While at the same time, the owner was trying to supervise everyone as he was doing in stage 1 or 2. In another company, the owner was planning to run for, say, any MLA or become a mayor of a city at the substage 3D, but was impatient with the company's slow growth, as it was explained in substage 3G. So, although really it is a factor more than one stage ahead of or behind the company as a whole, an imbalance of factors can create serious problems for the entrepreneur. One of the major challenges in any small organization is that it's a fact that both the problems faced and the skills necessary to deal with them change as the company grows. Owners must anticipate and manage these factors as they become important to any company. The company's development stage determines the managerial factors that must be dealt with. Its plans help determine which factors will eventually have to be faced. Knowing its development stage and failure plans enables managers, consultants, and investors to make more informed choice and to prepare themselves and their companies for later challenges. While each enterprise is unique in many ways, all face similar problems and all are subject to great changes that may well be why being an owner is so much fun and such a challenge. If you have followed my session over last 4 classes, I started with the most difficult topic of risk management, and then gradually we have learned how to make the strategies for your business. Actually, I wanted to impart the knowledge to you because you should be ready, you should be prepared for the business to attain the stage 5 and in a very shorter time limit, because the days are coming when the life cycle of any company will become very shorter, and you have to take prompt decisions, you have to take prompt action, and you have to reach a bigger market in a small span of time. Next, please. I would like to conclude my today's session with a famous quotation of Anthony Robbins. Every problem is a gift. Without problems, we would not grow. The idea that one can go throughout his life without challenges is very unrealistic. Some might dream of a frictionless ride through the world as the ideal journey. But without some form of pushback, growth is impossible. It is these problems that we face which build our character, engage our creativity, and build our humanity. You should avoid 3 things if you want to become a successful entrepreneur. 1, lack of leadership to show in time. 2nd, lack of decision making on critical time, and lack of agility to work. We have discussed lots of strategy, the strategy formulation process. We went through the entire framework of the strategy process. and planning, we discussed how to cope up with this very extraordinary situation that now we are facing due to COVID-19, which is a global problem, which is not your own problem. Now, the advantage is when all the organizations are suffering from the same level of problem, and many of them are very perplexed what to do next, we should be ready with our strategy for the future. And we should be ready with the plans and course of action for the future. This future is not very long to see, very far to see. This future is coming very fast to us. And the entire world is changing. The perceptions are changing. People are changing. The business models are changing. So you should be alert enough what is happening throughout the globe and how you should make flexibility in your business, how you should redesign and redefine your business models, and how to make a plan that will actually make sense in this time and make a difference in the future. Thank you very much.